In the sperm whale, the nostrils are placed near the extremity of the nose, and therefore this whale has to raise its snout above the surface when it requires to breathe. But instead of this being necessary, as in the case of the porpoise, twice or thrice in a minute, the sperm whale only rises to blow at intervals ranging from an hour to an hour and 20 minutes. Mr. Beale says that in a large bull sperm whale, the time consumed in making one expiration and one inspiration is 10 seconds, during 6 of which the nostril is beneath the surface of the water, the expiration occupying 3 seconds and the inspiration 1 second. At each breathing time, this whale makes from 60 to 70 expirations and, therefore, remains at the surface for 10 or 11 minutes. Then, raising its tail, it descends perpendicularly, head first. In different individuals, the time required for performing these several acts varies, but in each, they are minutely regular. This well-known regularity is of considerable use to the fishers, for when a whaler has once noted the breathing patterns of any particular whale that is not alarmed, he knows to the minute when to expect it to come to the surface and how long it will remain there. The spout of the sperm whale differs greatly from that of other whales. Unlike, for instance, the straight perpendicular twin jets of the right whale, the single, forward-slanting spout of the sperm whale presents a thick, curled bush of white mist. Each whale has a different mode and time of breathing, and the form of the spout differs accordingly. It is said that the blowing of the beluga, or white whale, is not unmusical at sea, and that when it takes place underwater, it often makes a peculiar sound which might be mistaken for the whistling of a bird. Hence is derived one of the names given to this whale by sailors, the sea canary. Though I have had opportunities of attentively watching the breathing and other actions in captivity of 2 specimens of this whale, I have never been able to detect the sound alluded to. Besides the opinions cited by Mr. Bell concerning whales spouting water from their blowholes, we have other evidence which is clear and definite, and which ought to be convincing. First, we take that of Mr. Beale, who, as surgeon on board the Kent and Sarah and Elizabeth, South Sea whalers, passed several seasons among sperm whales. He says, "I can truly say, when I find myself in opposition to these old and received notions, that out of the thousands of sperm whales which I have seen during my wanderings in the South and North Pacific Oceans, I have never observed one of them eject a column of water from the nostril. I have seen them at a distance, and I have been within a few yards of several hundreds of them, and I never saw water pass from the spout hole. But the column of thick and dense vapor which is certainly ejected is exceedingly likely to mislead the judgment of the casual observer in these matters. And this column does indeed appear very much like a jet of water when seen at the distance of 1 or 2 miles on a clear day, because of the condensation of the vapor which takes place the moment it escapes from the nostril, and its consequent opacity, which makes it appear white and is not observed when the whale is close to the spectator. It then appears only like a jet of white steam. The only water in addition is the small quantity that may be lodged in the external fissure of the spout hole, when the animal raises it above the surface to breathe, and which is blown up into the air with the spout, and may probably assist in condensing the vapor of which it is formed. I have also been very close to the Balena mysticetus, the Greenland or right whale, when it has been feeding and breathing, and yet I never saw even that animal differ in the latter respect from the sperm whale in the nature of the spout. If the weather is fine and clear, and there is a gentle breeze at the time, the spout may be seen from the masthead of a moderate-sized vessel at a distance of 4 or 5 miles. Captain Scoresby, a veteran and successful whaler, a good zoologist, and a highly intelligent observer, says, "A moist vapor mixed with mucus is discharged from the nostrils when the animal breathes, but no water accompanies it unless an expiration of the breath is made under the surface." Dr. Robert Brown, who communicated to the Zoological Society in May 1868 a valuable series of observations on the mammals of Greenland, made during his voyages to the Spitsbergen, Iceland, and Jan Mayen Seas, and along the eastern and western shores of Davis Strait and Baffin Bay to near the mouth of Smith Sound, remarks, in a chapter on the right whale, Balena mysticetus, "The blowing, so familiar a feature of the cetacea, especially of the mysticetus, is quite analogous to the breathing of the higher mammals, and the blowholes are the homologues of the nostrils. It is most erroneously stated that the whale ejects water from the blowholes. I have been many times only a few feet from a whale when blowing, and, though purposely observing it, could never see that it ejected from its nostrils anything but the ordinary breath, a fact which might almost have been deduced from analogy. In the cold Arctic air, this breath is generally condensed and falls upon those close at hand in the form of a dense spray, which may have led seamen to suppose that this vapor was originally ejected in the form of water. Occasionally, when the whale blows just as it is rising out of or sinking in the sea, a little of the superincumbent water may be forced upwards by the column of breath. When the whale is wounded in the lungs, or in any of the blood vessels immediately supplying them, blood, as might be expected, is ejected in the death throes along with the breath. When the whaleman sees his prey spouting red, he concludes that its end is not far distant. It is then mortally wounded. Captain F. C. Hall, commander of the unfortunate Polaris expedition, describes the spout of a whale in life with the Eskimo. What this blowing is like, he says, may be described by asking if the reader has ever seen the smoke produced by the firing of an old-fashioned flintlock. If so, then he may understand the blow of a whale. A flash in the pan and all is over. Captain Scammon, an experienced American whaling captain who, like Scoresby, could wield well both harpoon and pen, writes to the same effect in his fine work The Marine Mammals of the Northwestern Coast of America. Mr. Herman Melville, not a naturalist but a sailor who served on a sperm whaler and experienced the hardships and dangers of the chase, writes in his remarkable book The Whale. As for this whale spout, you might almost stand in it and yet be undecided as to what it is precisely. Nor is it at all prudent for the hunter to be over-curious respecting it. For, even when coming into slight contact with the outer vapory shreds of the jet, which will often happen, your skin will feverishly smart from the acrimony of the thing so touching you. And I know one who, coming into still closer contact with the spout, whether with some scientific object in view or otherwise I cannot say, the skin peeled off from his cheek and arm. Wherefore, among whale men, the spout is deemed poisonous. They try to evade it. I have heard it said, and I do not much doubt it, that if the jet were fairly spouted into your eyes, it would blind you. The only other eyewitness I will cite is Mr. Bartlett of the Zoological Gardens, whose experience and accuracy as an observer of animal habits is unsurpassed. He spent an autumn holiday accompanying the late Mr. Frank Buckland and his colleagues, Messrs. Walpole and Young, in a tour of inquiry into the condition of the herring fishery in Scotland. When the commissioners left Peterhead, he remained for a few days as the guest of Captain David Gray of the steam whaler Eclipse. As it was reported that large whales had been seen offshore, his host invited him to go in search of them and pay them a visit in his steam launch. When about 12 miles out, they saw the whales, finners, at a distance of 4 or 5 miles. 14 were counted, all large, some of them 70 feet in length. On approaching them, the captain shut off steam, and the launch was allowed to float in among them. So close were they to the boat that it would not have been difficult to jump upon the back of one, had that been desirable. Mr. Bartlett tells me that he was greatly astonished by the immense force of the sudden outrush of air from their blowholes and the accompanying noise. He believes the blast was strong enough to blow a man off the spiracle if he were seated on it. He authorizes me to say that, having seen and watched these whales under such favorable circumstances, he entirely agrees with all that I have here written concerning the so-called spout. The volume of hot, vaporous breath expelled is enormous, and this is accompanied by no small quantity of water, forced upward when the blowhole is opened below the surface.